Hello, everyone who is listening to us in Italian. This webinar has the possibility of simultaneous interpretation. You can look for it under more, and then for Croatian, you can also listen it from the Croatian into Italian or whichever combination. Under other on Zoom, under translation, you select the language you want to listen to. Hello, everyone. I'm Giacomo Cazzola. I'm the fellow researcher at the University of Venice. Welcome back to the third episode, the Thursday Creative Talks, which is a series of webinars where in every Thursday of the month, the project Interreg Italia, Italy-Croatia Create deal with the most efficient and integrated responses to the climatic change in the Adriatic area. Last episodes were dedicated to the importance of planification and the possibilities of financing to confront the impacts which were due to the climatic changes along our coastlines. And today's episode will go live on the measures on the nature-based solutions following the direct experiences of all the interventions which were inspired and supported by nature, and they contribute to resilience, to the reduction and to the adaptation to coastline and climatic risks. So the webinar will start with a presentation of the project Cluster Create, which is our topic by Margaretha Breil with the European and Mediterranean Center on Climatic Changes. And then we will have the presentation from ZADRA NOVA, Mrs. Andrea Vitlov Kurtin, and then Mr. Daniele Capitani from the Municipality of Cervia and Ravenna. The webinar will close with all the lessons that we've learned in the project OPERANDUM with the open air laboratories to see all these nature-based solutions in live, as we said, by Professor Silvana Di Sabatino from the University of Bologna. After that, we will have room for your questions and all the curiosities on these arguments and everything that we've spoken and everything that you've heard. So please don't hesitate to ask or to set your questions under chat so that we can then respond. And on behalf of all the team of Create, I would like to thank you all as a panelist and also to our translators and interpreters for their contributions. Margaretha, I will leave the floor to you. Thank you, Giacomo. Give me just 1 second, please. I will steal only 5 minutes of your time. I will give you the presentations of our partners, expert partners. They are already available for this webinar. I will just tell you what this project creative, what it is, how we created this series of 7 webinars. This program Interreg Italia Croatia is coming to an end in this cycle, which was under the financing to synthesize and to disseminate the results that were gathered in previous times. So we have created this cluster project. This would be the gathering of numerous projects, and we created a series of projects that already existed with the partners from these projects, which brought their experiences in detail and SECAP, ideal response, readiness, and ADRI-ADAPT. All these projects made part, and all together with this, there were other projects within Interreg, and we are gathering all the results that we have gathered. We started in June, and we should end it in June of this year. So we have 8 partners, 4 in Croatia and 4 in Italy. In Croatia, Energy Institute, PAPRAC, IOR, Institute for Fisheries, and the county of Split Dalmatia. And in Italy, we have the Abruzzo region, CNR, and among others, us from the CMCC, from the European Mediterranean Center on the Climatic Change. The budget is how much we can spend, and this is what we do. We started creative talks with all the persons who are also involved today, and then we are creating this inventory of everything that we have gathered so far, and so that we can disseminate this, and then we'll create a manual, adaptation manual. One of the arguments that will be most important will be the governance, how to manage, how to open up to general public, to everyone, to the stakeholders, and how to also we already had this in Split, and then will also happen in Pescara. Then we'll also have this Adriatic reward for the adaptation award, which is the initiative for adaptation in the areas which were already basically implemented and that we can use as an example. And we will also develop ideas for new projects for the gaps that we are still missing with the path that still we have to take. As Giacomo said, this is the third part of our series, the third webinar. The next ones will be on marine spatial planning on 9th of February 2023. Then on the 9th of March, it will be centered on monitoring. Then on 13th of April, synergies between mitigation and adaptation. 11 May 2023, communication, how to communicate on climatic adaptation, and the 15th June on governance. We have so many channels you can follow us on social networks. You can see here the list where you can, so you can see how you can consult our website and then gather everything that you want to know. Our topic today are the nature-based solutions. What are they? They are the solutions on adaptation, which are not only inspired, but they are also they use the natural mechanisms, the functioning of the ecosystems, and they are essentially efficient, cost efficient, which is very important. Also when it comes to financing, but also from the sustainability point of view and maintenance. And they also create a lot of advantages when it comes to preservation of the environment and the social and the economical advantages. And they also influence well on the biodiversity, and they also have this good impact on the resilience. And this is when it comes to the European Commission, this is what their conclusion on the nature-based solutions was. And this is, in the last 5 or 6 years, we have seen this, and the name of the nature-based solutions used more and more. Ecosystems, and these green areas can be used in the marine environment. If we speak of Posidonia, meadows, then in the coastal systems, in the dune systems, or in the wetlands, then in the wedges and the river coastlines, then in the urban environment, in parks, in the gardens, and in basically streets with a lot of trees. With great importance with the continuity, this needs to be then continued, and then when it comes to buildings, also with the green walls and green roofs. So advantages and disadvantages is, so the first advantage would be that they save CO2, the emissions, because they replace cement, and cement is one of the greatest drivers in the emissions of CO2. They reduce the air pollution and water also, and they create spaces for for sustainable mobility and social activities, and they also increase biodiversity. They also had disadvantages, and this needs to be said, because they in the urban areas, but also coastal areas, they require much more space than traditional interventions, and they also create also competition with other urban uses that would be used otherwise. I would like to thank you all now, and I will give the word to our first panelist. Andrea, you have the word. Hello, everyone. I would like to greet you all. I am Andrea Vitlov Kurtin, and I would like to greet you on behalf of ZADRA NOVA, the Agency for Development of Zadar, Croatia. We have the capacities at the regional and local levels. We are the regional coordinator, which means that we coordinate projects of public interest. We've implemented many regional and inter-regional projects. I will represent the project of interregional collaboration when it comes to coastal management, and I will also present the pilot activity of the STREAM project from the financial period of 2014-2020. To be more precise, I will tell you more about our pilot activity, which is a nature-based solution, and that's the smart urban drainage system. Or more famously known as rain gardens, which is a green infrastructure that works in conjunction with the landscape, and as such reduces flooding in key locations in the city of Zadar. Let me just share my screen. Cool. As I said, it's a cross-border pilot project. STREAM is an acronym that stands for Strategic Development of Flood Management. It aims to reduce human and socioeconomic losses in case of flood hazards by improving flood risks management by the local authorities and emergency services with this cross-border approach. The project started in 1st of April 2020, and its end date will be 30 June 2023. The total budget is around 9,500,000 euro. We have 16 partners included in the project, 7 Croatian partners and 9 Italian partners. And the implementation of this project requires different project partners like the regional agency, local authorities, and universities. Why is this project this relevant? It's very relevant, and we can see it in several points. First, the checkpoint would be the climate change, which is responsible for facing different kind of floods. We have fluvial, pluvial, and sea storm surge floods. We see when we are the witnesses of climate change, which double the risk of such severe climate risks. On the photos, you can see Zadar, one of the greatest floods in the history of Zadar. It happened on the 11th September 2017, but these cases are no more an exception. They are ever more frequent scenarios. And when we speak of flooding, extreme risks of climate changes can impact livestock and crops and people's health. And apart from climate change, a very important item is the cross-border cooperation. Croatian and Italian side share the common interest in reduction of flood consequences. So the partners work on creation of the monitoring tools and early warning procedures. And we also share ecological problems and setting up this flood cadastre, flood risk map. And this is only possible through our common and joint collaboration. This stream will set up this, as we said, and this we will create this flood risk management plan. The key elements are also organization of workshops, of info days and events, which will improve the citizens' readiness and rescue operation in case of floodings. And we will also try to raise awareness to introduce and to keep this good behavior and well thought out behavior in cases of floodings and citizens' readiness. When it comes to Zadar and our pilot activities, when we're speaking concretely, these are the smart urban drainage systems. They in Zadar are present, or they were implemented in 3 different areas. One of these areas is Park Vrulica, which is the center in the very center of Zadar, and gets really flooded after severe rains. And given that we have a small river here, it initially increases our problems. The second pilot location is the backyard of an elementary school at the periphery of the town, of the city, which is also a children's space, and it has the same problems where basically there is an additional problem because there are children's capacities, so that they can also participate and they see these natural-based solutions for these issues. The third location is land by the road that connects 2 cities. It connects Zadar with Biograd. And for those who don't know, it's a small town that is part of the Zadar County. And in this slide, you can see the amounts of the contracted pilot activities. And you can also see the estimated value of the works, which is not accurate due to the floodings and all other problems that we meet in these projects. Unfortunately, they are still not done, even though they are at the very end and I will tell you more about the rain gardens and the smart urban drainage system. Our project activity is a solution to reduce drainage system because smart urban drainage systems or rain gardens, they recreate the natural function of the soil, which includes collecting of the rainwater and storing it. A rain garden can be a part of the drainage system, and at the same time we have the possibility to store a lot great amounts of rain which can be used for the irrigation process. And this rain gardens can be in thousands of square meters to the residential side, to the residential size of a couple of square meters. So this simple way how to gather rainwater which would disappear. Rain garden can also make part of the drainage system, as is the case in the stream project gardens, because they can store a lot or great amounts of water that can be used in the irrigation. So this way we protect the natural sources of water, and the maintenance costs are low. And on the other side, we are creating spaces for the wild animal life and for other living creatures. So here we can see the projected representation of the garden. We don't have a 3D view, unfortunately, so this is the best solution that we can offer you at this time. But this will enable you to see what is happening here concretely. So we have the pavement that during heavy rain, it gets flooded, and it floods an enormous area because the water cannot be drained away. And this might be a good photo where you can see the works that were implemented or at the beginning. We can see the projected state, and with the channels and with the line grids that are used for drainage, allows the water to go into the pipes. And this is what we call this linear drainage system. And they are basically used as storage, because it takes the water from the pavement to the grid, and through these channels it leads the water to the separators. Then this separator purifies the water from the grease and dirt, and this water then comes to the shaft and continues to the rain module. And in this photo, you can see a simple representation of this rain module. These are basically tanks, which in this case are 6 cubic meters. That's their capacity, and they can efficiently store all the rainwater that can be then used for the irrigation. And on the top of the rain garden there, you see the planted indigenous highly absorbent plants. There are a couple of photos of the construction, or photos of the current state, as you can see. This is the Brulica Park in the center of Zadar. Apart from this rain garden, we will also, here we also worked on the walking path, so that we can have an additional value to the project. And we have installed highly absorbent plants like Edera and others. And we are also witnesses of a very bad weather and heavy rains, and so we cannot finish the works at 100%, but I hope it will all be done in a month. And I think that it will be concluded in a month. So, and we'll see how it works and if it works. This is a location at the elementary school of Ploče, which is finished. And we have created gardens and orchards, and we have the rain model of 3.5 cubic meters, and we have also made further improvements to the environment, and also kids participated in the maintenance of the plants that had been planted. As you can see here, rain gardens, apart from preventing flooding, they also beautify the town, make everything more natural and nicer. So we can't wait to implement everything so that we can see how everything will function and work in practice. Thank you all for your attention. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Margaretha, the floor is yours. Thank you, Andrea. It was very interesting, and it's one of the projects that really goes that is helping us to exchange the experiences, and your project has helped us a lot. And I will give the word to Daniele Capitani. He is responsible, one of the responsible persons for the ADRI-ADAPT for the municipality of Cervia. Daniele, you have the word. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Margaretha. Thank you to everyone who organized this. Thank you to the panelists, and for giving me the opportunity to tell you what we've done in the municipality of Cervia. We are implementing the stream options and introduction of, let's say, a bit radical changes and modifications at the regional level, and the SECAP solutions and the SEAP solutions. So basically, we are implementing the SECAP solutions, and this was the axis that helped us, was then according to the last laws in our region. We have this presentation. I will show you the presentation to explain a bit better what we've done and all the interventions and the public works, and also these guidelines that we have provided, and how to use these nature-based solutions to mitigate the climatic changes, because we know that we are late, and this adaptation is basically a leverage which will help us, because it's already an emergency, and it can be then used in different situations. So I will share my screen with you to explain better what I'm trying to say. Let's see if it works. Okay, I think you can see everything as you should. Yes, everything is okay. Okay, so I will start. This is a photo of Milano Marittima, which is part of the municipality of Cervia. I wanted to give you a context about the territorial reality and to see what I'm talking about. You can see that there is a lot of green area, so that you can see that this is a nature-based solution which really guided us to confront all the problems that we have confronted. I will start with the two lines that I took from Ms. Roworth in 2017, which says that the adhesion to the European Green Deal makes priority this development paradigm that exceeds this idea that the growth is the most important indicator of economy, and it gives and it puts into focus the satisfaction of the necessities of the persons in terms of ecology, in prevention of degrading of the natural resources, in social terms. And this is the series of key words where we can see a lot of them that we've used today, and a lot of topics that we are speaking of today. And we here see identity, knowledge, culture, because using of the social networks, we see these three words because we need to know things to use technology, or have the culture or sensibility to attain culture. And then we have to have this identity, because identity is basically making us very close to agility and to work and to sensibilization. And I will just give you a brief things in 3 years from 2017. So it's been and we have brought a lot of decisions in the city council that have helped us to introduce all these measures, because on the 10th of July in 2019, we've seen this enormous water spout that has devastated one part of the pine forest in Milano Marittima, which created significant losses economically also. And because of this, we've seen this decision of the city council number 39 in 2019, and this city of Cervia has declared the state of climatic emergency. And then in the end, we have rendered it possible for the trees to regrow and at a coherent level in the habitats that will then reappear, and this will be a natural phenomenon. We have this new approach which will enable us to create this new value platform, because it will contain this consummation of soil. It will also increase the permeability of the soil, and it will also increase the fertility of the soil. So here, this was, I'm really lucky to be able to speak of this, because we have recreated the resilience, and which we have been losing for a lot of time. And this will enable us to see all these acts and the documents which have been approved, and it guided us to resilience, to adapt to climate change, so that all these changes that we are confronting as a society, so that we can create this more resilient society. And if we also take into consideration the economic factors, when we spoke of this 5 years ago, we couldn't have imagined that all this would have happened in the last 2 or 3 years, because we have created a success. And then from this zero resilience that we had before, all of us together, we have created this anti-fragility system, and we have reduced the stress and also recreated bonus for us. And we have also improved this a situation of catastrophe. We have improved it by a lot. So this general plan provides attention on all the things that need to be taken into consideration, We provide focus on this new plan, like these novelties that have been introduced, like strategy one of these basic elements and the strategies, and this ecological factor is also very important in this mitigation of climatic changes. I'll also mention SECAP because it's the most important plan. And then we have this how the project of that Margaretha said enables us to create all the to give a framework to everything to this climatic changes, and so we have the possibility to experiment, to research, and to install these metering stations, temporary and permanent ones, which will then provide the input to everything that we gather, and they will also measure the temperatures, the increase in temperatures, and the this will become a standard, and this was also used in Germany, in Romania, and they also sent us these alerts and alarms, climatic alarms, enabling us to react in the best possible time. And but also there has been research, territorial research, and this enabled us to transform this human strategy and the ways to react, and to also decide where to install other stations. Because if see that there's that there are major problems with the salt that reappears, or that is in augmented quantities, then we will be able to see it, and then we'll use all of our capacities to mitigate this, because in the previous years before this we weren't able to confront this problem. We have researched this in the urban area, and the data that we've gathered, and you can see here, and the microclimate in the urban area. Why microclimate? Because this well-being of community is measured in how satisfied their citizens are, and this Cervia also has this tourist aspect. So if someone decides to spend their time in Cervia, you have to really make sure that they have a good time and that they choose this tourist destination. So this means that one of the objectives was that we have studies on the capacities to improve everything that is being constructed to respond to the climatic change, but also to already improve the pre-existent territory. So we have introduced novelties and innovations and everything available basically to allow us to do this. We have also then verified all the data that we have gathered. We have measured the temperature of the of air, the humidity, the vertical profile of the temperature, then thermic turbulence, velocity and direction of the wind, the noise level, radiant temperatures, then the air quality, CO2, CO, NOx, O3, SOx, etc., and all these very fine particles that make up for the air quality. Then geolocalization through a GPS sensor, and we wanted to all this to understand what would be the urban mechanism what to do to improve everything, and to understand the importance of the secondary factors, which also put risks into our everyday lives. So we have created this Pass Salina Center, which is then this pathway, which is parallel with the coastline, because we have evidenced the hot spots and the cool spots in these pathways. So these are the areas where this climate comfort depends on, or basically depends on the period of the day. And these are the data that we have confirmed according to our, it's not only how we feel, it's not how, but when you walk, we have seen what you see here, where basically there is the presence of the temperature where they are lower. As we'll see later, you have these like gaps where is this one temperature and then afterwards the other temperature. These are basically, as you can see in the photos, these are the mean averages of the temperatures, and they are not the same. The temperature of the ground and the temperature in the air are not the same. Because on the left is the temperature of the air, and then in the middle is the temperature of the ground, and this is the perceived temperature on the right. And as I said before, by introducing this series of trees will then change the things, because we see this increase in perceived temperature, because here in this red part you can see this increase in temperature, but we have realized what happens. So another risk without the trees basically is the temperature peaks and the hotspots in the coastlines. But this has brought us to this great heat. And then there is this coastal or marine flood, sea flooding. And because this is a very long coastline, and we have to protect half of the coastline. And then we have discovered another third that needs to be protected, because there have been changes and there will be changes. So we will give you an example of urbanization, this strip, where they haven't been sensibilized. I'm so sorry, I'm having trouble hearing him, so everything that I hear is blurred a bit. And then this second plaster, the second strip, you can see what has been done before on the left before and on the right afterwards. So here you can see that everything has that the surface is permeable, that you have different parts of soil covered in the green vegetations, and then we have also the increase in the soil and this heap of green. And then we have the plantation of the trees that, because these parts then help to reduce temperature. And this is everything that has been done. Here is the protection from the coastline by planting the trees, but then there's the beach. And then due to the long coastline, we had to implement different solutions. Sometimes we have a lot of trees in one part, and in the other parts they had to be more rare. So this way we gain better results. Then there are these paving that had to be placed there, but so that it's permeable. So that we could also put the urban drainage in there. So we had to take this into consideration. These are the suggestions. Now for the parts that we have used along the coastline, and there is a lot of capacities of gaining permeable surfaces which enable to reduce the high temperatures. And this it serves us because in base or pursuant to everything that we have gathered in this research, we see that Cervia is now more protected because there is this dune strip, and this is the beach that I've been talking about. This is the square that I've been talking about. Now it's protected, and we have certified and checked the flooding, which was the one that we started from. Now it's much lower. So this is, there's also the function of the paving, but it was also wasn't used in a good way, and there were no trees at all. And then in during the summer months, we had heat spots, and then there were these problems all the time. And this is a suggestion that we spoke of before, of planting a lot of trees, and creating rain gardens, and creating this permeable pavings, which enable this urban drainage to function well. And also now we are also getting closer to the beaches, and will resolve that area too. So this permeability will decline in time, and this will be used otherwise. And this is in the square Premi Nobel. You see, this I've shown you before. This is the part that you've seen, and you have passed from this to this. We've seen the result, which is a functioning result of well nature-based solution, but improvement of microclimate, urban microclimate. And these two things always go together. We have also used this operation in Milano Marittima. You can see here how these protected areas by wedges, but these surfaces are permeable. And this paving, which is also fully permeable. Before it was a parking lot, a wild parking lot. So we completely changed its configuration. This is in another street. So we see that we have these little parks, and we have increased the permeable surfaces, so that people live in better conditions now, but also we were able to contain this water to be able to irrigate this infrastructure. And because now before we didn't have enough water to irrigate, to water the plants. This is in Borgo Marina, which is also in the county of Cervia. We have, in the 8 years, we have changed a lot of public areas, and they are much greener now. We have used the maximum of everything, possible solutions in an area which was really congested and not well managed. But now we have introduced this project, which also won an award for the efficiency. So everything is moving forward, and with 25 million euro, you can imagine what we can do and what we can create in this part that has already been realized. But there are other parts that need to be reconfigured, and we can have this use, which will be for the activities which are of tourist or recreative nature, or conservationist activities, etc. So to conclude, we can say that this urbanism of the let's say last generation is really adheres to the principles of the European New Green Deal, and it assumes these invariants which are non-negotiable of giving attention to ecosystems, to the mitigation and adaptation to climate change. And this depends, it basically declares and it really does adhere to the concepts of resilience and anti-fragility, and depends basically this plural material or basically it becomes an area where a lot of experts from different sectors of scientific research collaborate on. So basically, since we see the evidence of climate crisis, we also see the necessity to do this ecological transition, and by working all together we can acquire it, because we think that our model of linear economy, which is which really entails a lot and high consumption of the resources and energy, is no longer sustainable. So it needs to be converted in a circular model, which will minimize the usage of the resources, of the process of the products of long durability, etc. Thank you, Daniele. I'm sure that you haven't bored us, but there are also questions which we will reply after the next speech. I will give the word to Silvana. Please stay with us. I think it's a very important topic. Hello, everyone. Thank you. I am Silvana Di Sabatino. I'm the professor at physics department at University of Bologna. I'm a physicist. I work on the physics atmospheres, atmospheric physics, and part of the staff. I'm working with doctoral fellows. I would kindly share with you the OPERANDUM, which is a project financed by the European Commission, which has been concluded 31 December 2022, and we are in the final phase. And is now done. I will try to share my screen with you. I will try to be as brief as possible. And give you only the essential information regarding the project. Let's see. This is not the presentation that I wanted to share with you. Give me only 1 second, please. Give me just 1 second, please. Bear with me for a second. Can you see it? Can you see the screen? Yes, thank you. Okay. Thank you. to everyone who organized this meeting, to the panelists, and to Mr. Cazzola, to Mrs. Breil for the invitation. I will talk to you about this project of the European project, but also about two other projects financed in the same call, the projects that regard natural-based solutions and that were financed by more than 12 million euro. The challenge that we were facing in this study, which co-involved 26 partners in Europe, but also globally. So the challenge was to understand how naturally based solutions can be useful not only in climatic change, but also how to reduce hydrometeorological hazards. And our project start with these challenges. The first challenge was to understand how the concept of natural-based solutions was recreated during the years. It was a new concept which basically existed, especially in the urban part, but it was less known for the suburban areas. So we have identified the risks at high scale, the risks that we needed to identify. So this geographical level, but also the risks that we confront locally. We have an article on this. You'll have the references when it comes to the structure and the choice of the scales necessary. What we have done with the results, if you're interested to compare the results on our website, we have produced over 60 scientific papers, but we are also excited to have collaborated on creation of the handbook with the European Commission, where we have seen the indicators and topics for these diverse solutions. It's very important to remember that in the moment when we decide that the nature-based solutions will be used for the mitigation of the risks, we are asking for something more with respect to what we have discussed earlier. Not only the improvement of the environment and other modifications for the citizens, but when we speak of this avalanche and degrading of the marine coastline, we are speaking of the choices of nature-based solutions that have to really confront the performance, its performance in parallel or in comparison to what were these usual solutions. So these were the challenges that we have faced, how to face, how to resolve these challenges. We talked about this a lot, how to make them more efficient, because solutions cannot be only scientific research, because it has to be put into practice, and it has to be discussed with with the experts in the field. So we have translated this open air laboratory. Maybe some of you already know this. This is the concept that we introduced, where this decision of nature-based solutions has to be co-developed and demonstrated with the local stakeholders. And this concept of our open air laboratories is basically goes from the ex-urban area, where you get this central solution to minimize the risks of climate changes now, but also climate changes in the future. So this choice that is done today has to also be an efficient answer for the climate changes in the future. So this has to be a response to climate changes in the future. So we wanted to reproduce a scheme which would be introduced in a methodology which would also offer different models which would also serve as a support on the decisions in the future. So this scheme, I have very few minutes, so I will try to reassume to be as brief as possible. So this scientific research had to be put into a real sector, because these choice of the solution is something that has to be redeveloped with all the other stakeholders. So a small reference to what you are seeing now at the European level and at the climate service, because they have mentioned the top-down approach, and we think that this approach can help create a service, a climate service, starting from the bottom up, by identifying the risk and by using the concept of vulnerability as the central projects on which we have to react. And this is to facilitate the translation of the verification or the efficiency of the solution in a scenario of climate change. Here I will give you maybe the presentation, a very short presentation of what has already been done, of the things that we have already constructed in different scenarios, and we have created all these different scenarios for the different OALs from different kinds of floods, droughts, or planting new trees, or maybe today when we're discussing the coast, there are different problems, as we already said, erosions, then the salt wedge, saline wedge also, which creates a lot of problems. So every OAL worked on specific risks, and they co-designed a series of solutions that were then basically tested and monitored, but also it was divided into modules. And this slides shows some of the solutions that were presented, the ones that we have used. About 30 solutions have been used, and these have some of them were chosen and according to their value, and they were chosen as prototype because they included the monitoring but also the modeling part, and in the coastal part we have identified the dunes. This was the prototype in this case, or the second dune, which was artificially reproduced, and the planted vegetation. But we have also created different modules, what it meant to change the water, the sea bottom with the Posidonia. And this is the message that we wanted to give you before introducing change. You have to do the pre-assessment of what would be then the outcome in the future years. When we speak of Italy, we have been focused or in our cases we have laboratories in the Emilia-Romagna region. We have 3 sites, operating sites of OAL. One of them is land regarding river alluviation. Then the northern coast of where we have started with the implementation of the dunes. I don't have the time to speak of the Spanaro site, but when it comes to the part of the coast, we have started working initially with the Bellocchio, but during the project, our coast disappeared, so we couldn't implement it. So we went further to the north, and we have changed the structure and the design. This is let me give you a small message for those who are interested when it comes to the coastal interventions. In all our solutions, we have tried to involve the monitoring and the verification. When we reached this solution in laboratory, when it comes to the solutions, for example, the saline wedge, we are composing, say, a solution, and we are going to get a permit we will also use it in Spain to see which were what was the efficiency and what was the concentration of salt in the air, and then we will pass on to the implementation. Then again, with the saline wedge, I think it's very important. No, you cannot speak, as we said, as Mr. Capitani said, we can not speak of only one problem, but when we speak of the impact on the coast, it's a very complex problem which needs to be seen from all the angles. I don't have the time to go into detail of the results, but as I said before, this was implemented, this important intervention together with our other collaborators, and we have managed to gather a model on the testing on how this change can be important in the future. But also I would like to speak of the dunes, which had a nicer structure before, but we had to change the plan during the design phase. We have decreased because it was supposed to be long 200 meters, but then in the end it had to be much less ambitious than the first design, but we are very satisfied with what has been done, and I think that this dune already is covered in plants, and it was implemented in May in 2022, and it already served its purpose. I'm speaking of the northern part, and we have implemented many simulations, and even though the project now is concluded and this work is under civil protection, we will continue because we've obtained new financing from the European projects. We will continue to work on the vegetation, on planting new plants. And this is an example, a pilot example of biodiversity. And we will also continue, if it's possible, to working on this work. It will be then recreated in Tuscany, with another project. And we will also have contributions with numerous partners, because we need to also thank the civil protection, because they enabled consulting, and then they have this license for this project, so they are licensed to recreate it somewhere else. And so we created diverse simulations to see different aspects of coastal solutions. I will show you now how the construction looked, and I will finish by saying that everything that we have produced, it was very difficult to present this in 10 minutes with 12, but in 12 million euros, we have really managed to do a lot and created this platform with all the data that can be a prototype and very useful for the local authorities to test what solutions could be available to mitigate risk. And I will give you a short presentation in English, and I will leave you with that. This would be a short resume. So this could be a short summary for who wanted to do other projects, or this would be a way to explore their own area, to confront and to see other possible solutions in other parts of the world. And it's important to remember the policy documents, which are also available online. So this has already been mentioned. This platform has a novelty. It was constructed and designed for different profiles, so the information should be accessible in to different type of users. I hope I was brief enough, and I hope that I've been able to give you a couple of inspirational points when it comes to Operandum, which, as I said, basically finished. But they were very nice for 5 years. So thank you for listening to this, and I'm really grateful to be able to have talked about this project. Thank you, Professor Sabatino. Thank you to all our contributors, but we are a bit late, but maybe I would give you each question. I would start from Professor Sabatini, because there's someone who asked how and what can help to bring these solutions on a large scale everywhere. This is a very complex question. I will try to be brief as possible. To bring it to a large scale is very complex. It's complicated because if we speak of the territories which were already heavily urbanized, not only in Italy but elsewhere, because European nations have this problem of over-urbanization, and it's important to promote change, dialogue, because when we speak of and I'm expert in this, I will when I speak of this area which are not urban, because I've worked in both for the last decade, but when we speak of ex-urban areas, the problem is the relation with example with those who are the owners of the land, the private owners, the farmers who have their activities developed there. So dialogue with this community has to be put in operation, so that they have to be allowed to produce. In Emilia-Romagna has this really consistent part of its economy also to agriculture and to production. So it was important, and it is important to have this relationship with the producers, with the manufacturers, so that we could introduce new practices like the buffer zones, and like it exists in England. There are no private territories where citizens cannot go walk, because now with the buffer lines, we could have this not only to promote biodiversity, we can put barriers where we can reintroduce bees, for example. So different kind of practices are available, and which could help us upscaling is this new conversation with the producers of the area. I don't know if I've replied well to your question, but we could go in different directions here. This would be more from a policy type of view, but I hope that this was useful. Yes, I'd say that the differently is a push in the right direction. I will go to a different question to Mr. Capitani, to Mrs. Kurtin, which is linked to nature-based solution in the periods of of dryness, of drought? How can we increase well-being, and how can we improve irrigation in these periods of prolonged drought? I would say that we can start from Andrea, and then we can continue with Daniele. Thank you for your question. I will try to reply, even though I will reply from the point of view of the management, of the project management, and not from from the point of view of an expert or a researcher. So the rain modules have the capacity, which is very large, about 18 to 200 square meters, cubic meters, depending on the location. So the plants that were planted in the area of the rain garden, in the drought areas, through certain periods, they will have enough moisture, but this also depends on the area of the precipitation during spring and summer seasons. It's a very open question, I'd say, considering that our rain gardens still haven't been functioning because they are not fully finished. So we will see how everything will work if we have this prolonged drought. But I think that this amount of water that we have mentioned, which is prescribed, or which has been basically collected in the modules, will be enough for these periods of drought during the summer. Thank you. And they have also asked not only about this drought, if it was possible to renovate the dunes in the urban tourist areas, and if this approach can be integrated in the new construction. There are very technical questions. We'll start from the end. We can, if they want to move in the direction of using nature-based solutions, then the tenders and the guidelines of the designers have to go in that direction, because the designs will have to offer a nature-based solution as a project solution. It has to be transparent, so they all have to know, basically, they will have to know what to deal with. In the internal design also, they have to be even more, and when it comes to public work, there you have the choice of, you have ways of working all, but if we also have to look elsewhere, because there are different solutions, because we all basically we are all moving in the same directions. The best response is if we could maybe renovate the coast to give it a more natural look. For example, in the beaches, but that's very different, because in Cervia's case, so the beaches is very heavily basically there are a lot of structures, beach structures there. They are very frequent, and but we have introduced the renaturalization on those in the north and in the south, and then basically it protects the pines. And then in the northern part, we have the presence of the dune strip of the dune belt, which is used as protection. And then do this work elsewhere. We have made different hypotheses about. We have seen it as a development strategy, but given that some areas use always the same ways, it wasn't possible. How and then to protect the marine areas from a natural point of view leads us to a different question, to a nature-based solution. The most I am so sorry, I'm really having trouble in understanding him. So the sustainability will be put aside. So the greatest advantage is the retention of water. And this is what I wanted to tell you. I'm so sorry. I also have to greet you because I have to go. I really enjoyed participating in this. Thank you. Thank you to all the participants, to our speakers. We have half an hour of this is prolonged for over half an hour, and we've seen more than 200 participants who stayed with us even during this prolonged time. I'm sure that there are a lot of questions, a lot of topics to discuss. A small help from our side is to try to gather the questions that we couldn't discuss today. We will give them to our speakers and then publish their responses in our website. Thank you. Webinar will be published on our site, and we will we'll hear you in 1 month when we have our next creative talk. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you to everyone. Bye.